Translation. O Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, by your sweet will you appear in various incarnations, millennium after millennium, and act wonderfully, performing uncommon activities that would be impossible for us. Srila Prabhupada's purport ki. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 4.7, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam sajami aham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendants of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Thus it is not imagination but a fact that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by His sweet will, appears in different incarnations, such as Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Nrsimha, Vamana, Parusharam, Ramachandra, Balaram, Buddha, and many other forms. Devotees are always eager to see one of the Lord's innumerable forms. They said that just as no one can count how many waves there are in the sea, no one can count the forms of the Lord. This does not mean, however, that anyone can claim to be a form of the Lord and be accepted and be acceptable as an incarnation. The incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be accepted in the terms of the descriptions found in the Shastras. Lord Brahma is eager to see the incarnation of the Lord, or the original source of all the incarnations. He is not eager to see an impostor. The incarnation's activities are proof of his identity. All the incarnations described in the Shastras act wonderfully. Keshava Drita Mina Sarira Jai Jagadisha Hare. It is only by the personal sweet will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that He appears and disappears, and only fortunate devotees can expect to see Him face to face. Srila Prabhupada ki. So just repeat the verse there. Te te svicha bhute rupe kal kal swayam vibho karma durvish saham yanno bhagavam stat kurotihi. O Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, by your sweet will you appear in various incarnations, millennium after millennium, and act wonderfully, performing uncommon activities that would be impossible for us. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksuran Militam Yena Tasme Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvese Sasunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Ghora Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'd just like to seek the blessings of you all, and maybe you can do a 10-second prayer for me. Thank you. So I came across Krishna consciousness 10 years ago when I was at university, and I was trying to convince some of my friends and some of my relatives And near that time I went for, it was a summer holiday, so I went back to home in Leicester. So I was at Leeds and I went to Leicester. And we had a family day out, and with some family and friends, and we went to a restaurant. And I was convincing one of my older friends, who was a lot older than me, to take up to vegetarianism and explaining all these benefits. But he was a very charismatic person, and he didn't really believe in God. And then I kept explaining about Bhagavad Gita and all the wonderful teachings, but I was also very new to the philosophy. And what he did was simply pull out his keys and whack them on the table. Boom. And he goes, if God exists, then tell him to move these keys. That's what he put. So this is an amazing story. I actually prayed to the Lord, and but the keys didn't move. Nothing happened. So I didn't have many philosophical arguments, so I just let him be, and we carried on eating. I had my vegetarian pizza and he carried on. But then later on I spoke to the devotees that what could I have said and what could I have done. And I got a bit more insight, and some of the explanations I can share. They're pretty obvious, but I can share them. That even if you want to see someone on this planet, even say if you wanted to see the Queen, and if you simply go to Buckingham Palace and demand that I don't believe that the Queen exists, let her come out. Tell her to now leave. Let me see her. Just because of your desire, just because of your demand, the Queen won't just come. It's not just the Queen, even if you want your girlfriend, for example, to maybe just come, they wouldn't just come. A friend wouldn't just come just because you may just ask straight away. So this is a ridiculous notion that simply by calling out and asking God to appear, he should appear and prove himself. There was so many pure devotees. They've prayed so sincerely to the Lord to help, please appear, and the Lord still doesn't appear. Dhruva Maharaj prayed so sincerely. He did so much austerity. He gave up water, he gave up food, he even gave up air. And then the Lord finally then did appear, but only after so much austerity. So if we sometimes expect, why is not Krishna not working with me? Why is he not interacting? I've just done 5 rounds. Why is he not showing me some bliss? No, I've just been on book distribution. Why is the Lord not now just reciprocating with me? Why am I still getting a hard time? There's so many devotees who just worked so hard to see the Lord, and they still don't get to see the Lord there and then, because it is not a mechanical process. This mechanical process idea that Krishna is just a robot or a machine, a vending machine. So I just put my few coins in, Namo Vishwabhare Krishna Prasabhutara Srimad Bhaktivedanta Namo Brahmanya Devyoga Brahmanya Sahajagadadaga, and then you think Krishna will simply just take what you've given and convert it to prasadam. Simply you think by doing some service, doing some austerity, why am I not blissful? Then start questioning the process, questioning the mercy, and then also questioning yourself, is it something wrong with me? No. Prabhupada explains here, the Lord will appear by his own sweet will. Of course we can attract the mercy, we can do things to attract the mercy, but not demand. And not demand that the Lord, you just appear right now. And these incarnations, when the Lord comes, he doesn't actually need to come anyway. Even if the big demons are there. Of course we know he comes to protect the devotees and kill the demons, annihilate the demons, but he doesn't need to. If the Lord wants to, he can simply just send one of his friends, one of his devotees, or he can even just send any jiva to just annihilate this demon. Or he can even just use the material energy. A demon could be walking past and a tree could fall on his head. But the Lord comes by his own sweet will. And this is a very important point to understand. This is especially, I'm preaching to myself here, because we sometimes expect certain amount of advancement should come in due course of time. Certain amount of realization, bliss. But it's not like that. The Lord will come at his own sweet will. And we have to understand that the price for Krishna consciousness, it is 100%. And even if you give 100%, the Lord is still up to him whether he actually comes or whether he goes. In Vrindavan, when the Lord was there, everyone loved him so much. Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda Ma, they loved him so much. If the Lord wants to leave, he'll go. Then we think, I'm having a hard time. Krishna's not really interacting with me over the last week. Krishna left the devotees for 100 years in Vrindavan. But they still carried on doing their Krishna consciousness, carried on thinking of Krishna. So we can see that Krishna can decide to come when he wants, and he can decide to leave when he wants. But what we should know from our side is we have to give 100%. The price for Krishna conscious is 100%. There may be there's different points actually mentioned about the price of Krishna consciousness, because in some market it says the price is simply faith. And then they once asked Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, what is the price? And he said something like 50 paisa. You just have to buy this. Is it Prem Chandrika? One book from Narottam Das. That's the price. And then Prabhupada is explaining that the price is also, you have to give full consciousness. Even if you're attached to the sun, the sun ray, the sunrise, you have to take birth again. But Krishna may decide that, okay, you're not 100% there, then I will make up for it. Says if one has done service for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will jump into your consciousness at the time of death. But we do not just rely on mercy that we're not sure that we are getting. On our side, it should be 100%. The fact that the Lord comes is very interesting to the material world, because the Lord doesn't need to come to the material world, but he does so. But one thing is he's also reminding the conditioned souls that, I'm here, I'm still around. He just comes. He doesn't need to. We left him. We chose to forget him. We turned our back on him. And very clearly says, no, it's okay. I want to not just be in a different room from you. I want to go to another universe from you. I want to go to a whole different realm away from you. I want to forget you. And I don't want to forget you just for the day. I don't want a 1-day break, a 2-day break. I want to forget you for a long time, if not altogether. Whatever it may be, we've left Krishna. But Krishna's so kind that he says, no, I still want to remind them. They're suffering in that miserable sewer. They're suffering in there, in the smelly sewer, and thinking they're happy. I want to just remind them, hey, I'm here. And he's so kind that what he does, he makes it easy for us as well. He makes it easy by showing how great he is. So you don't have to think, oh, do I like him? Is God great? Can he do great stuff? He doesn't. He could come down and do something simple. Just come down, have some laddus, enjoy with his friends, and play some ball games. But no, he's also doing some other extraordinary activities just to give you conviction God can do anything. And he can help you. And he is there for you. And Krishna does want to save the devotees. He actually wants to save everyone, but he has to sometimes interact with the demons in a different way. But even with them, the way Krishna works with his incarnations and himself, he works in such a way that even when he's doing something that may seem bad, they're actually better off than whatever situation they were in. When he kills the demons, they get glorified forever and they attain liberation. When he took all the wealth, if we have some rich man amongst us and we just take everything from his wallet, take all of his money, and then says, that's it, kaput, go away. This is actually, we just can destroy someone. But when the Lord does it, to Bali Maharaj, when the Lord takes everything away from him, he actually puts him in a better situation. So this is also an indication of how merciful the Lord is and why we should be positive and appreciative at every moment in Krishna consciousness, because the Lord is always showing in all these pastimes, you will always be better off. Whether I stab you, whether I kill you, whether I leave you, whether I be with you, whether I interact with you, however I interact with you, it will always be good. And you can study in your own time every single pastime, and they're always better off. Interesting point, one Prabhu says, sorry I don't have a reference, but one devotee explained this in the Bhagavatam, that Queen Kunti says that Krishna comes in all avatars to specifically protect the cows and the brahmanas. So I just throw that interesting point in, that the devotees are the cows and the brahmanas here is being implied. So it's very nice that if we can also do cow protection, give out this message of taking care of the cows, respecting the brahmanas and the saintly person. This is what Krishna wants, and Krishna does this every time to re-establish religion, and that's what real religion means, is to take care of the cows and the brahmanas and show appreciation to Krishna. Krishna shows his greatness to convince us. He does this in two ways. One, he actually does extraordinary activities, and the other one thing he does is his personal interactions with all the devotees. So he does both. Because a lot of the things he also does, they're not necessarily needed to be done. There is no need, in one sense, for Matsya to just become so big. He can protect the ship even if he could protect the ship even if it was just the size of Jaws or something. He could just he could keep the ship going. But he just wants to show how great he actually is. He's making life easy for us by doing this. And one thing I was trying to think about a few of the points on incarnations, and one thing, that fact that whatever the Shastra says, he then appears. So the Lord appears whenever the Shastra has said so. So what he is also doing, he is showing by coming that have faith in the Shastra. That's what he's also showing, that if the Shastra, whatever the Shastra says, and whenever, trust the Shastra. So when the Shastra also says other things, not just when it mentions the incarnations, but when the Shastra mentions about the dangers of materialism, when the Shastra mentions the glories of the holy name, when the Shastras mentioned about the glories of Vaishnava Seva, we should have no doubt. In the same way we are confidently can say amongst us that the incarnations have came and will come, we should then also have enough conviction that whatever the Shastra says regarding all the other points, whether it may be points that you don't want to hear, you can think about them amongst yourself, points in Shastra which you may not want to hear, but even they are true. So there's just another indication, because these incarnations are showing this as well. The fact that they come exact time, exact village, exact parents, because everything's very precise. I like to do that on Sankirtan sometimes. I mention Buddhism, get them going a little bit, and then I pick up the Bhagavatam. It says, this is 5,000-year-old literature. Then I'll read them some verse, some Sanskrit. Then I show them the Buddha incarnation, that this is 5,000 years, and it predicts Lord Buddha. Then that says you should try to have this book. And another thing we can learn from these incarnations is that he is fully showing we have nothing to fear. When one is taking shelter of the Lord, it doesn't matter how demoniac one's father is. When one has faith in the Lord, one knows it doesn't matter how much you have to wait, the Lord will come. But you have to just be patient. When Sabri was in Lord Ramachandra's pastimes, she was told by a sage that the Lord will appear. The Lord will 100% appear. What she did was every single day on the pathway, she got all the flowers and put all the flowers every single day. And people were saying, "You're nuts, you're crazy, you're wasting time." I mean, I wouldn't even need anyone to convince me I'm wasting time. After a day, 2 days, 3 days, I'm just putting flowers and then having to clear them up. So here also, Srila Prabhupada is also giving us a conviction. Srila Prabhupada is giving us a promise that if you do 16 rounds and 4 regulatory principles this lifetime, you will go back to Godhead. You will see the Lord face to face. So like that. We have nothing to fear. Lord will protect us. Analyze the past times and try to see how the Lord is always protecting the devotees. And I'm in a position right now, I'm always looking for some motto, some short little motto to keep me going. I've been doing it for the last 10 years and I keep changing the motto, and I think I've worked it out. But anyway, what I'm going through right now, I'll share with you, maybe it'll ingrain in my little head, that my motto is be positive. Because, and I think it's such a great thing. I mean, a lot of spiritualists do this, but they don't even have much necessarily philosophy or any deep understanding. But they talk about, it's all about positivity, man. You know, it's like, and then we sometimes may not actually really appreciate this philosophy. Just be positive. What's that mean? But we have every reason to be 100% positive about every single thing. You'll probably see me negative tomorrow about something and fried, but you just remind me, because a very nice point one of my Siksha Gurus said to me when I was trying to be negative about my advancement and about just overall my interactions with devotees and just my spiritual life. And he says, you are sitting on a gold mine and you think you're a poor person. This is very interesting that as a poor person trying to keep suffering, keep worrying about all these things, we're sitting on a gold mine. So this is more than a gold mine, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the wealth of knowledge is that it is in there, and the wealth of realizations that are being shared with us so that we can carry our life in full positivity is all there. So these incarnations are again showing that have faith. You've made it anyway simply by chanting the holy names. Now just stick to the process, and the same way the devotees were released from all of their sin and went back to the spiritual world, in the same way the living entity, ourselves, will also definitely, we will be just as glorious as the devotees in the Bhagavatam that were face to face with these incarnations. So what was also mentioned here was that we have to be aware that what is an incarnation? Incarnation is the Supreme Lord, so Sri Krishna himself, that has come down and that is determined in Shastra, and that is recorded in Shastra. And if it's not recorded in Shastra, it is then questionable of what it actually is. And even if we see, for example, there's many religions, and many religions may claim that this is a incarnation, this is not an incarnation, so this is an incarnation. But I'll show you one letter that Srila Prabhupada writes. I don't know if I bought it. It was to a certain, I don't know, I don't think he's a real incarnation, maybe he's an imposter, but he does write a letter to him. I won't give no names, but he says, Srila Prabhupada dictated the outline of this letter to Pradyumna Prabhu. He said, "Dear," to this person, "just recently in the Blitz paper published on this date, we were surprised to find one article, 'God is an Indian.' You have claimed to become an incarnation of God to save the human society. What is the ground of you claiming as incarnation? What have you done to save the human society? Will you explain for the enlightenment of us? We have got the list of incarnations recorded in the Vedic scriptures and their respective activities also. So where is that record in the Vedic scripture about your appearing as incarnation? Lord Krishna's incarnationness is fully described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Similarly, Lord Ramachandra's incarnationness, or Lord Buddha's incarnationness, Lord Chaitanya's incarnationness, we have got full information in the Vedic literatures. Where is your incarnation described? Will you kindly give the reference?" Anyone can say like you that one is an incarnation, as it has become a fashion nowadays. But is that claim the only proof of one's becoming incarnation? Some such unauthorized claims of becoming an incarnation is certainly ridiculous. Shri Radha Gokulananda ki. And so there's imposters. There's imposters saying that they are incarnations. But then there are also another group of class of men that are saying that the Lord cannot appear as a form. The Lord cannot appear in different forms. The Lord is impersonal. And there is this also thought. So I was thinking also about this, and I was thinking, for example, one of my favorite actors, I don't watch films now. I was tempted to watch a film the other day, but I didn't. I can proudly say I didn't. But one of my favorite actors is Arnold Schwarzenegger. So even if we look at him, he has the ability to appear as Conan the Barbarian, as an actor, the Running Man, the Killer of the Predator, Kindergarten Cop. Yeah, you may know some of these things. Hercules, and of course Terminator. So Arnold Schwarzenegger has the ability to appear as all these different types of roles. So why cannot the Lord? The Lord can also do this. But the Lord has some differences, some very obvious differences, apart from the fact that his are more great and they're remembered forever. But he also can come in different species. This is the ability of the Lord. And just to show how he can do anything. And if he is in your life, he can do anything for you. And the Lord is showing his just greatness, that he can do anything in any form. Srila Prabhupada explains that Vyasadev is very, very learned. And he hasn't got time for fairy stories. If you think about this, you can see that every single pastime by the Lord is exact truth and is actually very, very concise information. And when you have conviction more and more that when the Lord appears, it is actually exactly written down, one should be actually, by theory anyway, one should be reading these pastimes again and again and again. They should be so fulfilling. They should be so nourishing to know our Lord, our goal of life, has appeared like this. He has done this. And therefore, by reading the pastimes of the incarnations, we become convinced. And the more we become convinced, the more we should actually read these pastimes. But the materialist can say it sounds a little bit carried away. How can the Lord be so big? How can the Lord appear like half man, half lion? How can it even be possible? But even if we see in material examples, they used to have computers, and I think it was, I don't know whether the first computer was BBC or whatever it was, they'd have a computer the size of a room, just to do some very simple things. Like maybe the first calculator was big as a room. They would never have thought that it's possible. No way would they think it's possible to fit all of this information, all of this equipment into the size of an iPhone. It would be ridiculous to even think like that. So this is like frog in the well. The little frog thinks that nothing is possible outside of its little well. But when one actually comes to understand that we are also in our little well. Even as devotees, we may have theoretically accepted a lot of things, but we still maybe put a lot of restrictions on how these incarnations, how the descriptions of Bhagavatam, how the Lord can act. We also think in our little limitations, within our own parameters, we think. So at least we should understand, at least by theory first, that anything is possible by the Lord, and we should accept that our understandings are normally caught up in our little well, but there is a lot more out there. So we should take trust from this descending process of taking shelter of the spiritual masters and the Supreme Lord. Just a few things I found interesting. That, for example, Kurma, the tortoise incarnation, he was able to do so much. Maybe it was an excuse to go on YouTube, but I saw what was the world's strongest man, how much weight could they actually lift. So it was one Iranian, Reza Zedeh, he lifted 263 kilos. And it was a big thing, you know, it's got a lot of hits, and it was a world record. But here Kurma was lifting a whole mountain on his back. And it says when he had this mountain on his back, and it was pivoting around on his back, for him it was just an itching sensation. So this is inconceivable that a mountain could be on someone and it gives them an itching sensation. Then I looked into someone who could do the most headers, football. There was this one guy, Gurudas Makadreds from Georgia. So he could just head the ball 8 hours. And he could do a header while going on an 18-story pole. So he was going up the pole and he's heading the ball. I mean, this is amazing. You know, it's amazing. But then we have a lot more amazing. We have Lord Varaha, who has the size of earth. He has earth on his head. And he goes all the way down and then lifts this up. And if you do not think that's amazing, because the back of my mind I'm like, yeah, but still it's not like the header guy, you know. He did it for 8 hours with a ball. It's because maybe there's not so much conviction, maybe, or whatever it may be. But we can see that we get so fascinated by when we're showing some video. I showed Praveen Prabhu yesterday the video, and I think we were both fascinated by Gurudas Makadreds from Georgia. It was his headers. But if we talked about Varahadev, it says how he went right at the bottom of the causal ocean and lifted the earth. Oh, yeah, I know that. So we probably need to change our mentality. And Lord Kalki, what an amazing incarnation that will be. He completely ignores the British knife law, Criminal Justice Act 1988, and he goes around with his sword and does his business. So these incarnations are absolutely amazing. There's a bit of a description in Jayadev's poem. If I can just get that. I'll just read the last two verses of Jayadev's poem, just so we can at least have a bit of a meditation on all these incarnations. It says, O Lord Krishna, I offer my obeisances unto you, who appear in the forms of these 10 incarnations in the form of Matsya. You rescue the Vedas, and as Kurma, you bear the Mandara mountain on your back. As Varaha, you lift the earth with your tusk. In the form of Nishinga, you tear open the chest of the Daicha Hiranyakashipu. In the form of Vamana, you trick the king Bali by asking him for only 3 steps of land. And you take away the whole universe from him by expanding your steps. As Purusharam, you slay all of the wicked Satriyas, and as Ramachandra, you conquer the Rakshas king Ravana. In the form of Balaram, you carry a plough with which you subdue the wicked and draw towards you the river Yamuna. As Lord Buddha, you show compassion towards all the living beings suffering in this world. And at the end of Kali Yuga, you appear as Kalki to bewilder the Malechas. O Keshav, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed these 10 different forms of incarnations, all glories to you. O readers, please hear this hymn of the poet Jayadev, which is most excellent, an awarder of happiness, a bestower of auspiciousness, and is the best thing in this dark world. So it does take some faith, does take some real practice and detachment to start to be able to relish Krishna consciousness and to relish all these pastimes and to really understand the Lord as He is. And it does take all of your energy. The sannyas has in his rod the 3 sticks: mind, body and words. We may not formally take sannyas, but we should understand that to be Krishna conscious, we do have to take sannyas, in the understanding that our mind, our body and our words should be dedicated to the Supreme Lord. And if we encourage each other more and more in the right way and stay within the association of devotees, they will also help you and you can help them. And in turn, you will be able to then give your existence to Krishna, and Krishna will actually appear by His sweet will. If you don't, then you may get some type of Krishna consciousness. There is no loss. If you're not going for the real thing, to please Krishna, and you're going for some side benefits, you do get a lot of perks with Krishna consciousness. Like for me, I get maha whenever I want. But if I just go for things in the wrong way, then you're going for something cheap. And if you go for something cheap, it may look good. As Prabhupada says, it's the glitter of the material energy. It may look good, but it has no value. It has no substance. When one is getting married to someone, they may give a nice ring. But it takes some money to pay for that ring. It takes some effort to choose that ring. If you simply just go to the cornflakes pack and get some free toy that comes with it, this is what the whole world is doing, looking for happiness. They're putting the effort anyway. They're waking up early. A lot of people surprisingly do wake up very early to do their business. And unlike the devotees, they don't just have a certain amount of hours they do. They may put all of their day's energy from Monday to Saturday and put all of their energy. But in the end, they end up with something cheap, something that will just break, something plastic. So we are going to we are going to act anyway Krishna says you will act no matter what anyway, whether you follow the instructions, whether you don't follow the instructions. So we're also in a situation that we're in Krishna consciousness, and we will be chanting our rounds. We will be always interacting with the devotees. We will have service to do, but you might as well do it in the right consciousness. You might as well put full effort in there, because if you don't, you'll get something cheap, the cheaper version of it. But we might as well, because we're putting the same amount of time in, like that. I think I've explained most points that I wanted to share. What have I got here? I've wrote this myself. If you don't hear about the incarnations, naturally you will want to still hear about pastimes. But you may hear pastimes of Peter Andre, Jordan, David Beckham, and Cheryl Cole. Okay. Yeah, so just one last thing I'd like to just share. I'd like to just thank everyone for their patience as well. Then, since we're talking about incarnations, there is one more incarnation which I've not mentioned, which Prabhupada mentions here. So in the purport, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 3, verse 21, there's one purport by Srila Prabhupada. It says, Krishna appears in this world for two purposes. Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya cha duskritam. To protect the innocent religious devotees of the Lord, and to annihilate all the uneducated, uncultured asuras who unnecessarily bark like dogs and fight amongst themselves for political power. It is said, Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. The Hare Krishna movement is also an incarnation of Krishna in the form of the holy name, Nama Rupe. So please take up this process. Keep the Lord with you at all times. And the secret to success is keep chanting this wonderful Maha Mantra, which is the Lord Himself. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So thank you very, very much. Any comments, questions, digestions?